They won't yell at you. They won't slam doors, send angry texts at midnight, or make a scene in front of everyone. That's not how they operate. That's never been how they operate, because the empath has spent their entire life doing the opposite of that. Absorbing instead of exploding, internalizing instead of externalizing, swallowing pain so quietly that you never even heard it go down. So when they finally reach their limit, you probably won't recognize it for what it is. You'll just notice they've gone quiet, a different kind of quiet than before, not the peaceful kind, not the patient kind, the kind that happens after someone has said everything they needed to say on the inside and decided it's no longer worth saying out loud. That quiet is the warning, and most people miss it entirely. So let's talk about what's actually happening in the final moments before a fed-up empath walks away. Not the dramatic version, the real version, the one that starts long before you noticed anything was wrong. Here's what you need to understand about how an empath reaches their breaking point. It's never sudden. Not really. What looks sudden from the outside has been building for months, sometimes years, in the interior of someone who was raised to believe that their discomfort was less important than everyone else's peace. Someone who learned early that keeping the room calm was their responsibility. That being the stable one, the understanding one, the one who never made things harder, was not just a role, but an identity. They carried that identity into every relationship they ever had, into friendships, into family dynamics, into love, and for a long time, it worked. Or at least it looked like it worked, because the empath kept showing up, kept forgiving, kept extending grace past the point where anyone else would have walked out the door. But here's the thing about grace. It is not infinite, and the moment it runs out is not a moral failure. It is a reckoning. The fed-up empath has already given you their last warning 100 times. You just didn't know they were warnings, because they didn't come dressed like warnings. They came dressed as patience, as silence, as one more chance handed over without ceremony. They came as the moment they said it's fine when it wasn't, as the night they cried alone instead of telling you what you did, as the conversation they rehearsed in their head but never started because they already knew how it would end. Every one of those moments was a warning. Every swallowed feeling was a signal. Every time they chose the relationship over their own pain, they were quietly, invisibly, keeping score. Not out of malice, but because the body keeps records, even when the mind tries to let go. And now the ledger is full. This is what fed up actually looks like in an empath. Not rage, not resentment you can point to and argue with. Something more unsettling than that. Clarity. A sudden, bone-deep clarity about what this dynamic has cost them and what they are no longer willing to pay. The anger is there, but it's cold now. It's been processed so many times that it no longer burns, it just sits, still and certain, like a decision that's already been made. And once an empath reaches this place, something fundamental shifts in how they see you. Not with hatred, with something almost worse if you've grown comfortable with their devotion. They see you accurately, without the filter of hope they've been looking through for so long. Without the instinct to explain away your behavior or find the version of events that makes you easier to love. They just see what's there, and they finally believe it. This is the part nobody talks about. The empath's greatest strength has always been their ability to see the best in people, to hold space for who someone could be rather than who they're showing up as. For years, that gift has been working against them, because they kept loving your potential while absorbing the impact of your reality. The fed-up empath has stopped doing that. They've collapsed the distance between who you are and who they wished you were. And in that collapse, the relationship either reveals itself as something real, or it reveals itself as something they were building alone all along. Most of the time, it's the second one. And that realization doesn't break them anymore. It just confirms what part of them already knew. So what happens next? What does the empath do with this final warning they're carrying? Usually nothing. That's the part that catches people off guard. There's no confrontation, no ultimatum, no tearful speech where they list everything you did wrong and give you one last chance to make it right. They've had that conversation too many times in their head to want to have it out loud again. And they've learned, finally, painfully, that people who need to be convinced to treat you well will always eventually stop trying. So they get quiet. They get distant. They start showing up differently. Less available, less warm, less willing to smooth over the friction that you used to count on them to handle. And if you're paying attention, if you've ever actually paid attention to who they are, you will feel the shift before you can name it. That shift is the last warning. Not words, a withdrawal. A pulling back of the light that you've been reading by for so long you forgot it was theirs to take. Here's what the empath wants you to understand, even if they'll never say it directly. They didn't reach this point because they stopped caring. They reached it because they cared so much for so long with so little coming back that continuing would have required them to disappear entirely. And they finally decided they would rather lose the relationship than lose themselves. That is not coldness. That is the hardest, most mature decision a deeply feeling person can make. And if you're someone who has an empath in your life, someone who has been patient with you past all reasonable expectation, someone who keeps showing up even when you've given them every reason not to, pay attention. Not to what they're saying, to what they've stopped saying. Because the last warning an empath gives you is not a warning at all. It's a silence that used to be a voice, a distance that used to be presence, a door that's still technically open but no longer feels the same way it did. And unlike every warning that came before it, this one doesn't come with an extension. This is the one they mean. Have you ever been the empath in this story? Or have you been on the other side, realizing too late what that silence meant? Drop it in the comments. These conversations matter. And if someone needs to hear this today, share it with them. Sometimes, the most important thing is simply knowing that what you felt was real.